Hello, everyone. It is 2022. It is September, and it is the 25th, and it's a Sunday. We got cut off on the last stream because I got a phone call. So hopefully I don't get a phone call again, or I might have to put the phone in airplane mode, which is probably what I should have done. Next stream. But we're going to read 3 chapters, and then tomorrow we'll finish Redwall. We just left off with the shrews and Matthias celebrating that they would be no more eating of shrews by Captain Snow. And we pick up at the Abbey. They're doing construction on the gate. Lowering down crews with the strength of Constance and many others. Here we go. Chapter 10. Some construction equipment. Let's start this again. Clooney, that emerged from the ragged tent in the meadow, was far from being sick in the head. The members of the horde watched the way he strode purposely about. The old glint was back in his single eye. His orders were crisp and concise. Even the long tail had a fresh crack about it. The chief seemed sharper than he had been before. In the aftermath of the tunnel disaster, Clooney had called off the attack for a full day, withdrawing all his followers well back across the meadow. The warlord gave his horde time to recuperate from the fiasco, a day's leisure, with no ramifications and hardly any orders. The captains of Redwall wasted no time in making use of the temporary respite. Repairs were started upon the gatehouse door. Teams of woodland creatures, Abbey smiths, and laborers, plus any creatures that felt the need to help, were lowered down to the road in large wicker work baskets. Should the enemy in the meadow decide to make any sudden movement, the workmen could be speedily hauled back up the ramparts. All that day, the rope gangs were busy sending down wood, spikes, cordage, tools, and repair materials. Clooney sat and watched from a distance as he talked aloud to himself. Good work, mice. Strengthen my gates. I wouldn't want to rule a fortress with broken doors. Fangburn was passing. He overheard Clooney conversing with himself. Not sure whether the remarks were addressed to him, he stopped. Are you feeling all right, Chief? Never better, Clooney replied. He pointed at the repair crews. See that, Fangburn? Honest, industrious work. What for, eh? Fangburn hazarded a guess. To keep us out, Chief? No, to stop us getting in. Clooney chuckled. Get some soldiers and light a fire down in the ditch. Make it proper hot and a good blaze. Fangburn knew better than to question the reason for his chief's order, no matter how strange it sounded. A big fire? Right you are, Chief. I'll get them going right away. He hurried off, aware that Clooney was watching him. Shortly after, there was a huge burning fire in the ditch. The horde gathered close by to see what Clooney was up to. The crackling flames gave off waves of heat, causing everyone to step back. Above the ditch, the air shimmered and danced. Clooney stood in the ditch, claws on hip. He cracked his tail. Scum nose. Mange fur. Bring up those dormice prisoners. The 20 dormice were dragged forward into a pitiable condition. They cowered on the ground in front of the warlord, half-starved and dull-eyed. Clooney pointed. You, leader mouse. What's your name again? Plumpen, sir, the beraggled mouse said. Clooney grabbed Plumpen roughly, dragging him away from his fellow captives on the ground. What are these miserable creatures to you, Plumpen? The dormouse explained. My family, sir. My mother, father, brothers, sisters, and wife and 2 little ones. Please, sir, spare them, I beg you. Clooney laughed cruelly. His eye devoid of pity. He leaned close to Plumpton and whispered harshly, "What would you do to save them?" The Dormouse watched Clooney's eye rove lazily from his family to the blazing inferno. "Anything, anything you say. What do you want of me?" he screamed in fear and anxiety. Clooney cracked his tail triumphantly, pulling Plumpton forward until their noses touched. The big rat's voice was foul and evil as his breath. "Listen carefully. You're going to open the Abbey door for me, my friend. If you fail, your precious little family pay the penalty. Now, here's what you must do." Constance hauled on her rope. It was no hard task for a fully grown badger. On the other ropes there were creatures that could not compare with her strength, but they hauled and pulled with equally good will. Cornflower and Silent Sam kept busy supplying cold drinks and sweat cloths. The repair work went ahead at a steady pace. No one noticed there was an extra mouse laboring among the workers in the roadway. Plumpton. Clooney had supplied him with a habit taken from the body of one who had fallen, slain from the ramparts. Plumpton had concealed himself in the ditch and traveled under cover until he was level with the gatehouse. At the appropriate moment, he had slipped out with a plank upon his shoulder and joined the workforce. They toiled away industriously until Jess Squirrel, who was acting as overseer, decided the work was complete, as indeed it was. The old gatehouse door looked as good as new. All the tools and spare timber were gathered up and the roadway was swept. Satisfied with a job well done, the crew stacked up their materials and were hauled up to the ramparts in the large basket. Plumpton sat between Brother Alf and Brother Rufus across the meadow. He could see Clooney watching, always watching. Plumpton cursed the fate that had put him and his family in the hands of the rats. What a happy, friendly lot the Abbey creatures were. He was served afternoon tea, sitting in the cloisters. The Dormouse felt the good food turned to ash in his mouth at the thought of betraying his fellow mice. But there was no alternative. If he wanted to save his family, after tea he wandered off, the pretense of carrying out some fictitious task. When there was nobody around, he hid himself in the old gatehouse den, which had been Methuselah's study. Locking the door, Plumpton lay down, lonely and miserable, to await nightfall. Inside Cavern Hall, the Father Abbot addressed a morale-boosting speech to his captains. "Friends, it will avail Clooney little to put the Abbey under state of siege. As you know, Redwall is virtually self-supporting. All we require to sustain life and comfort is here within these walls. Therefore, I suggest we carry on as normally as possible. However, the walls must always be guarded. I leave it to you, my captains. Stay ever vigilant. Clooney and his horde. Against Clooney and his horde. I know that with your counsel and good judgment, we will see the day when the enemy are forced to go elsewhere and leave Redwall in peace." There was a loud applause for the abbot's heartening words, but Constance was not convinced. She whispered her thoughts to Basil and Jess. "Never. Clooney won't leave us alone until either we are dead or he is." Basil Staghair nodded in agreement. "I know, old scout. But the abbot's such a decent old bluffer, he believes there's good in everyone, even Clooney. What?" "And so do I," Jess muttered. "I believe Clooney will be good someday. Good and dead." Gradually, the day drew to a close. Lights dimmed as Redwall prepared for a well-deserved night's rest. The meadow and woods grew still and peaceful. On the top of the wall, sentries leaned on the parapet, listening to the evening bird songs. Across the meadows, the enemy campfires burned low in the soft June light. Blumpen waited another hour as Clooney had instructed, and then it was time to make his move. Stealing quietly out of the gatehouse study, the Dormouse headed north, staying well within the deep shadow of the wall. At the small north wall gate, Blumpen drew a scarlet cloth from his habit. Smearing the bolts with grease from the cloth, he silently worked them loose. Kilcooney lay watching the gate from behind at a sycamores in the woods. From behind a sycamore in the woods, near to every other entrance, one of Clooney's most trusted soldiers awaited the signal. It was the ferret who was rewarded by the sight of the scarlet cloth being shoved through the door jamb. She hurried away to tell Clooney. It was dead of night when Clooney's horde moved out of the meadow. Among the embers, around the embers of each fat campfire, bundles of grass and twigs had been wrapped in blankets. To the unsuspecting sentries on the walls, the bundles looked like sleeping forms. They sensed nothing amiss. The horde circled northwards through the meadows until Clooney judged they were far enough from Redwall to escape detection. He crossed the road at the head of his army. They filtered back through the leafy cover of a nighttime mossflower towards the Abbey. Now that his goal was in sight, Clooney used all his stealth and stalking hunter, waiting until the entire horde was in position. Each soldier, crouching quietly among the ferns and bushes, knew the penalty of making any sound that would betray their presence. Not death from defenders, but death from the claws of their own chieftain. Clooney could wait. He gave it another half hour, until he could actually see some of the guards on top of the wall nodding off on their post. What was 30 minutes? After he had waited so long for this moment? With practiced skill, he slid from his hiding place and crossed to the wooden door. One gentle push and the small iron door swung open on its greased hinges. Clooney stood in the doorway as the soldiers filed past him on their way into the Abbey building. There was little to worry about. The wall guards who were awake would be watching the road for the enemy camp, their backs turned on the secret invaders. Blumpen stood anxiously watching the warlord. At least his family would be safe now. The Dormouse had faithfully carried out his part in the dreadful scheme. Clooney must surely keep his word. He did not see the look that passed between Clooney and Fangburn. Fangburn swung the heavy club and brought it crashing down on the back of Blumpen's head from behind. The unlucky Dormouse crumbled to the ground with a sound. Clooney the Scourge bared his fangs, grinning wickedly into the dark. He had finally brought his horde into Redwall. Chapter 11. The next video will be our last video for Redwall. We're going to read this chapter, which is a very short chapter, and then tomorrow we'll read the final 3 chapters. One more look. It looks like the barnhouse and lights going through it. Barnhouse door, where Squire Julian and Captain Snow live, again, as brothers in arms. The last rays of the sinking sun streamed through the open barn doorways, lighting up a formerly darkened corners. Matthias lay on the hay amid the remnants of an epic celebration feast. The guerrilla union of shrews and mossflower had really outdone themselves laying out this spread. He picked up a truffle and tossed it away with a sigh of satisfaction, fearing he might burst if he forced another bite down his mouth. On one side of the young mouse, the gifts from Squire Julian and Captain Snow and the shrews were piled up. High on the other side was his sword, reflecting the rays of the afternoon sun. The guerrilla shrew regiment had chosen to sleep off the effects of the party outside the sun. They lay about the farmhouse, too full even to argue. Log shuffled lazily in and flopped down beside his mouse friend. Greetings, O warrior, mighty warrior, savior of the shrews, slayer of poison teeth, he who speaks with cats, friend maker of owls, and uniter of... Oh, shut up, you noisy devil, Matthias chuckled, and he kicked Log off the hay into the dust. Do you know much about birds? Log said. What about sparrows? Matthias yawned. Well, what about sparrows? I've had some dealings. What do you need to know? Nothing, really, the shrew murmured sleepily. But there's been one reported over at the edge of the woods. Of course, no one can understand a single word of the savage heathen is saying. She's screeching away back there, hopping and dancing, working herself into a right old tizzy. So I've been told. Matthias sprang up, grabbing his sword. Come on, Log, I speak sparrow language. We best head over there and find out what's upsetting her. With a score of gorilla shrews in the wake, the two companions set off for Mossflower on the double. Above the long grass front of the woods, the sparrow warrior could be seen. She fluttered up and down, creating a ruckus din. Log and his shrews were taken back when Matthias ran ahead and shouting at the top of his voice, Warbeak, Spara! That are you, old worm warrior? Joyfully, the two friends reunited. They rolled about on the grass like a pair of mad creatures, pounding each other on the back. Matthias Mouse, old worm friend, big fat warrior now. How are you? The shrews completely baffled. They sat about scratching their heads at the strange behavior of the warrior, the sparrow, and the warrior mouse. Matthias chatted to Warbeak in the rapid sparrow tongue, telling all that had happened since the last parted. Warbeak, from her part, told Matthias of her fortunes to date. Upon the death of King Bull Sparrow, Warbeak had been crowned queen. Dungwing, her mother, had wished it to be so. The tribe had been happy under the wise rule of its youngest queen. No more would sparrows have live under the claw of an unpredictable maniac. After Warbeak had related his story, he became grave. Matthias, Redwall have big trouble. We watch see from roof. Ratworm make a lot of plans, mice brave warriors. Alla fight back. Beat Ratworms plenty. But Warbeak watch Ratworm king. He bad worse than King Bull Sparrow. Him make bad plan, catch Abbey, Ratworm soon be inside wall. Matthias come back quick, bring sword. An icy claw of fear gripped Matthias' stomach. He sat down hard in the grass. Log shook his friend. What's she saying, Matthias? You look as if you've seen the ghost of Poison Teeth. For goodness sake, what's going on? It's my home, Redwall, Matthias said in a hollow voice. Clooney the Scourge has captured it. Log spoke urgently to the shrews. Quick! Get the regiment ready as fast as you can. We're off to Redwall Abbey. Tell them to catch up. I want no argument or votes. Tell every shrew to be fully armed. We must march night and day if we are to save Matthias' friends. Matthias picked up the sword of Martin. By thunder, Log, you are right. I fought hard for the sword in order to save Redwall. Come on. Shrew Mouse, help you. How many warrior him got? Warbeak chimed. A full complete component. Completement. Log answered. About 500 shrews. Warbeak spread her wings. Allah tribe sparrow warrior, we come help. Matthias shook Warbeak's claw warmly. Thank you, Warbeak, my friend. Now we must go. A strategy can be worked out on the way to the Abbey. Let's hurry. There's no time to lose. It's do or die now. The mouse and the shrew and sparrow plunged off into the green wooded world of Mossflower together. One thing Matthias was certain of as he strode swiftly through the trees, it would be better if he alone faced Clooney the Scourge. It would be he and he alone who faced Clooney the Scourge at the bitter end. Well, everyone, I'm going to a barbecue. I'm going to grill up some chicken, and it will be delicious. Maybe some vegetables too. We have a garden up there, and it's beautiful. I'll take you guys up there one of these days. I get signal up there, so we'll walk through the garden and see what we got in there. Some tomatoes, zucchinis, raspberries, black cherry tomatoes, sunflowers, carrots, gourds, squash, lots of stuff. All right, I'm gonna sing you the hymn. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we fight our country's battles in the air, on land, and the sea. First to fight for right and freedom, and to keep our honor clean. We are proud to claim the title of United States Marines. Our flags unfurled to every breeze, from dawn to setting sun. We have fought in every clime and place where you could take a gun. In the snow of far-off northern lands, and in sunny tropic scenes, you will find us always on the job, the United States Marines. Here's health to you and to our corps, which we are proud to serve. In many a strife we fought for life and never lost our nerve. If the Army and the Navy ever looked on heaven's scenes, they will find the streets are guarded by United States Marines. Semper Fi. Hoorah. Short stream today. It'll be a little bit longer tomorrow and earlier. Thank you, YouTube family. Thank you, Twitch family. Thank you, AMP family. Those are the 3 platforms I'm going to be involved on. It's been a pleasure having everyone here. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching the video if you are. It means a lot. I love seeing when somebody clicks on it. Makes my day. So thank you. All right, everyone. I'll give you another shot of the fountain. Hi, Penguin Superhero. I was actually just wrapping up. I'll give you the gist of what we went through, though. I'm going to a barbecue today. So, should be fun. It is pretty. I get to see that every day. Makes my day. I brought my coin with me today. Thank you. That's pretty. I hope you have a great time. Thank you. I will. We're grilling chicken, and I think somebody else is bringing burgers, and maybe a lumpia. So that could be fun. Lumpia is a Filipino dish. Well, thank you for stopping by, everyone. It makes my day. And I wish you all the best. Have a Semper Fi kind of day. I'll be on earlier tomorrow. I'm finishing up the... Thank you. I will have a great time at the barbecue. I'll give you one more shot of the fountain. And just a little look at nature. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for stopping by.